Hey guys, welcome back to the Hex Studios channel, and today we will be creating custom buttons with HTML and CSS. So I have already created a demo on my laptop before I started this video, and I'll leave a link to it in the description. So here's the little demo. You can either just go to the link right here, or I've got it left in the description for you. So what we have are a couple of buttons. I only have 3 in my little demo, and I'll probably only create 2 or 3 in this tutorial. But the first one is your default button. So you can see is you hover over it, it gets darker. You click it, and it gets even darker. And you can edit this to whatever you want. It's just a very subtle change on my buttons. The blue button is a little more noticeable in my opinion, and then we have the majestic button, which is a kind of pinkish color. And I will be creating a GitHub repo. This will all be open source. It doesn't really matter. You can fork it. You can do whatever you want to with it. Because this is also going to be a tutorial, so use it how you want. It's just HTML and CSS. I can't copyright it or anything like that. I'm just going to teach you how to do it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of files. So I already have a folder, and you don't have to use the command prompt. It's just my preferred way of doing it. Not what I meant. There we go. And I'm going to create a index.html. I will also create a buttons.css. Oops. There we go, and I will open them up over here in my file browser. I will also be using Atom in this tutorial to edit the files themselves. Notepad++ decided to open. I'll fix that really quick. Sorry about that. I'm just going to go ahead and add a project folder. It'll be easier that way. And tutorials. There we go. So now I have my index and my CSS files. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to set up our HTML structure. There we go. Fairly simple to do with Atom. And we're just going to title this Buttons Demo. Awesome. Also in the head, we're going to need to create a link to the CSS file. So ours is just called buttons.css. And that should be all for the time being. We'll also have some custom styling inside of the HTML itself. We can go ahead and just delete this. Oops. Let's go ahead and delete that, and then we can get started on the actual buttons. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div and give this an ID of button, or just BTD, and that's how I like to call my button, since there is an actual button element in HTML. Okay, and we're actually going to not have the div open up like that, because we'll just actually put the text inside of it like this. There we go. And that's all that we need to do for now. So we already have a div set up for the button. Now if we open that, it's of course not going to do anything. We need to add some styling. So let's add to this. So let's say button. So let's open that up, and we're going to set the display to be inline block. We are going to give it a default background color, and I like to use this gray color here, so it's just B2, B2, B2. It's a very nice gray color. It's actually this one right here when I'm not hovering over it. Here we go. We're also going to give it a width. And of course this can be changed to your need, but I like to set it to 100 pixels. The height of 30 pixels. A line height of 30 pixels. That way we can center our text right in the middle. So make sure that you just set the line height to the height. So now we're going to do text align center. We're going to set a font family. Now you don't have to do this. You can also set it to whatever font that you want. I just prefer to have mine set up Helvetica and sans serif. This is actually one of my favorites to use. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set the cursor to default. So it'll just use your default cursor. We're going to give it a border. Excuse me. We're going to give it a border of 2 pixels. I'll say about 2 pixels, and we'll give it a solid border. You can use a dotted border. Just for this example, I will use dotted. And we'll need to set a border radius. So the border radius, I'm going to set the best result for a circular one, I think is 25-ish. Again, set that to what you want. Then we're also going to give it some margins. So, oops. We're going to set the margin top, and I'm going to give it about 5 pixels of space on both the top and the bottom. So about 5 pixels. And then the next thing we're going to do is we need to set up the part where you cannot select. So we're going to have to set this up for each browser. And again, like I said, I'll create a GitHub repo for all this so you can go into the code and take a look at it. So the first one we're going to do is WebKit -WebKit-touch -callout. We're going to set that to none. That should be for iOS Safari. Then we're going to use WebKit-select, or -user, sorry, -user-select, and that is also going to be none. Okay, we're going to use KHTML-user-select, and we're going to set that to none. Then we're going to set the Firefox, so MOZ user-select none. For the Microsoft Internet Explorer and Edge, we're going to do MS user-select none. And for the final one for Google Chrome, and I think Opera uses this one, I'm not entirely sure, we're going to do user-select none. There we go. And now if we open up index, so I think I can just say, just go over here and open it in Google Chrome. There we go. Now we have this awesome looking dotted button. As of right now, it does nothing when we click on it or hover over it. It's just simply a div. And if we add another div tag in here for a button, so let's just copy this and paste it. Save that, come back here and reload the page. There we go. You see there's actually some spacing, and if we add a break, a line break, it should be fairly spaced out between the two. There we go. Awesome. So now let's add the hover and activating parts of this. So we're going to say button : hover. Make sure you put the ID thing in there. Awesome. So for this one, all I'm going to do is just set the background color to be a different color. Excuse me. And we're just going to set this to A5, A5, A5. That's just slightly darker than B2, B2, B2. Alright, and then we're going to say button active. And we're going to just set the background color to be 999999. Awesome. And that is just slightly darker than this one up here. So now if we go back and reload our page, we hover over it and you can see it gets slightly darker, and when we click it, it gets even darker. Awesome. And there's a couple of things that you could do to make this a little more custom. So we could come up here and say the width, since we have that set to 100 pixels, we can say we set it to like 95 pixels. And we set the height to 25 pixels. So now if we, oh, that's on the hover, sorry. There we go. So now if we come back and reload the page, when we click the button will get smaller. Now you'd have to change a couple of other things to make it, like your line height, sorry. We'll need to set line height also to 25 pixels. There we go. So now the button just shrinks. The only problem with that is that it brings everything else under it along with it, because it has a margin set. It's not really floating anywhere. So yeah, there you have it. You can click the buttons and they shrink down. I'm actually going to remove this because that's not what I want for my buttons. Okay, and that's pretty much all it is. If you wanted to add a different button, we're just going to copy all of this, come down a few lines, and I'll add a comment saying red. So we'll add a red button, do something different than in the demo. We'll just go ahead and paste that. And then on each of these, I'm going to add dash red, and dash red. Okay, and then I'm going to open an HTML color picker. So HTML color picker. I like to use the W3 Schools color picker because it gives you all of the different shades. So here's the very basic red, so I'm going to copy that. We'll set the color up here to that. Awesome. Okay, and since this is our red here, we need one that looks like it's changed a little bit, so we'll copy this one and we'll set that to our hover, and we'll go down one more for our click. again, even though it looks very subtle in that, you can see it inside the demo. So now let's come over here to our second button, and I'm going to add -red to it. So now it's just a new ID. And we will open this back up, refresh it, and now we have this awesome red button that we can click. Awesome. And the last thing I want to show is if you want to add it to do something when you click the button, all you have to do is add onClick, set it to a JavaScript method. So I'm just going to say button clicked, and we will add said JavaScript function. So let's add a script, and we will just say function button clicked, and I'm just going to log that to the console. Awesome. So now we come back up here and reload the page. If we open the developer tools, we can see in our console that when I click this button, it will now say clicked. Awesome. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Please leave a comment down below and tell me what kind of tutorials you would like to see next. And yeah, so thank you very much for watching. Have an awesome day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.